Don't sit in while you're running it down. Don't carry a gun.
Yeah. Hello everybody, this is the podcast about the book, The Great War Breakthroughs, and its theme and idea. What I would say the theme is what I've taken from this book, from the many stories. It is a book collection of many stories in one book, and they are not in one big story. It's like the Bible, where it's split up everywhere and very confusing. But anyways, I would say the theme is about how destructive and dividing war can be, because in multiple points in the book we can see how destructive it is. It describes a submarine sinking and some battles between submarines, about the constant artillery fire and just overall poor conditions both sides are facing, and its divisiveness by showing how the opposing sides of the US against the Dominion of Canada and the Confederate States of America. The US sees it as payback for everything they've had to go through because of the South, and the South sees it as the South and Canada sees it as a defensive war for their homeland, which makes sense why people are willing to go through a lot for the war, but it doesn't make it any less destructive. And in one of the stories, it's about a Canadian who is making a bomb to blow up US troops after his son got executed by being accused of doing just that, being sabotaging the American war effort. So it could show how people will go to extreme lengths to just either get payback or defend themselves. But the war is not, again, out of opposition. One story is about how a Jewish socialist congresswoman is, fighting against the war and the popularity of Teddy Roosevelt. But Teddy is very popular and a very good speaker, so this war is by no means unpopular in the US. It's basically just New York that's against it. Even though, again, many people are dying. There's a story about a woman who has to work in a factory job because, her husband is out fighting, which is a good improvement on the rights of women, but it is caused because of the destruction that war brings and not out of the good nature of, giving people rights. And also, one thing to mention that's kind of unfortunate, it's probably just because, to how people would have talked back then, but the book does not mention the word African American once, and instead chooses to describe black people using the N-word. Just thought I'd mention that. And also it mentioned, I want to read a alternate history book about the destruction of war, the political intrigue, the arguments between generals and the upper staff, which can also be a theme of, there's a general who goes against, the War Department and actually succeeds. He gets all of the barrels or tanks. They're called barrels in this time because Germany invented them, and the US is on the side of Germany, the Confederates on the side of Britain and France. But anyways, the British named tanks because that's what the Germans called their drinking devices. So it would be the other way around. Germans calling the barrels or tanks barrels because that's what the British would call their drinking devices, because they wanted to confuse the other. Yeah, he would gather these barrels in one spot and make a massive breakthrough, which is massively successful. But it can also show how war can make people more powerful because he becomes very popular with the media and stuff. You know, Teddy Roosevelt is very popular despite being an avid supporter of this war, and probably is so popular because he's supporting this war. And it can show how people are very nationalistic when they feel like they've been wronged, when their nation has been wronged. I guess that you can say that that's why there's not that many problems anymore, as people have just kind of accepted what they have now, and at least in like Europe, the Germans have accepted their borders, and most other peoples have followed suit. But, you know, in Ukraine and Russia, where there's, you know, a war going on, they are very nationalistic because both nations have feel like they've been wronged. And because also war. Yeah. But yeah, another thing is, I'm just going on a rant. Nothing about the theme or main idea of the book. The sex scenes or mentions of sex is way too common. I want to see the political thought behind this state, how it functions, why it functions like this, what caused this. I don't care that they did the thing. Was I talking about the main idea the entire time? It's the main idea. Honestly, the main idea is probably about how divisive war is, and the theme or moral is how destructive and divisive war can be for people. And that's the end of the podcast. I don't feel like doing anymore.